A very good morning to all of you. Welcome back to the channel, and I hope that you all must be doing great. So, here we are starting with the analysis for 22nd of July 2023. So, firstly, here this is talking about Mahatma Gandhi minimum guaranteed income scheme. So, इसके बारे में हम बात कर चुके हैं कि Rajasthan state it has brought up this bill about minimum income guarantee. So क्या pan India level पे when we talk about the universal basic income उसके nuances आपको पता होने चाहिए. And here Rajasthan it becomes the first and only state to implement minimum income guarantee with passing of the bill in the state assembly. So important features includes that now it would be providing, like under this scheme, 125 days of employment would be provided under MG Narega and 125 days of employment in Indira Gandhi Urban Employment Guarantee Scheme. And now rupees 1,000 per month would be given as social security pension. So focusing upon women, focusing upon social security and employment guarantee, and an increase of 15% per year in the social security pension has been introduced. So Prime Minister Modi raises aspirations of Tamils with Ranil Wickremesinghe. So here Prime Minister calls for implementation of the 13th Amendment and provincial elections in the Sri Lanka. So Sri Lankan president, he lauds India for the support offered during the financial crisis over the past year. So now you need to know about the details or how did India actually extended support to Sri Lanka, specifically during this financial crisis. And also you can like find out about 13th Amendment, what is the whole idea about this, and that's there. Now, after that video, which went viral on social media, we are seeing more cases of sexual assault of women. They are surfacing up in Manipur. So 2 days after three women, they were disrobed and paraded naked, with one of them being raped. We see a 45-year-old woman was stripped and set ablaze in Imphal East. So it's like extreme things are happening in the state of Manipur, and situation is not coming. It is not coming under control. We're not seeing any indication also that are we really moving towards restoration of peace in the state or not, because violence still goes on, sexual assault incidences are increasing, and things are happening at their extreme level. So in the context of the state of Haryana, when we look at the data from the Center of Monitoring Indian Economy, and after a like furor over the data released by it, so government figures, so they show that Haryana is sliding on unemployment. So basically situation is getting worse, and it has the fourth highest rate of unemployment in the country, along with Manipur among the states, as per the latest periodic labor force survey. So with an unemployment rate of 9% for 2021-22, state has fared poorly compared to the neighbors, including UP, Himachal, and Rajasthan. So when we talk about majorly the economic issues of the state of Haryana, firstly is high level of unemployment, and this has been obviously something which is not short term or which has or which is has resulted over a shorter time period. This has been basically sustaining thing. So what measures need to be taken in order to basically reverse the current situation? So steps to address Manipur issue must begin with change of leadership. And as we talked about before also, that we need to fix the accountability, especially thinking about this situation. So after 2.5 months of widespread and continuing violence in Manipur, which included a conflagration in early May, Prime Minister finally broke his silence after the video images of tribal women. They were being paraded naked after this incident. So Prime Minister Modi is yet to acknowledge what are the causes and the consequences of the conflict that is threatening to spiral out of control. So Supreme Court of India also saw Motu cognizance of the sexual assault seen in the video and its issuance of ultimatums to both union and the state governments to bring the perpetrators to book or to step aside and let the judiciary take action. They are stinging indictment of their failure in restoring normalcy in the state. So Supreme Court ने बोला है basically it has given an ultimatum to both the governments and अगर adequate steps नहीं लिए गए तो obviously Supreme Court has said या तो आप steps लीजिए या फिर side हो जाइए and let Supreme Court take the helm. So this is one thing, and obviously we can't let things function the way they are in current state right now. Something needs to be done, and definitely at a serious level. And apart from this, so it's all about that still the incidences they continue. So herein one of the steps can be that less controversial leader would allow for the civil society representatives from the different ethnicities to begin their reconciliation and peace initiatives in earnest. So internet ban only, this thing is not going to restore peace in Manipur. That would be just helping in ensuring the containment or restricting the spread of fake news. And apart from this blanket order and no supportive data, so data from the TRI shows that people of Manipur, they access the internet primarily through their smartphones, and wired internet users primarily constitute institutional, commercial, and higher socioeconomic groups. So there is an absence of data or specific instances of violence being prevented due to the jamming of internet connectivity. So it's like basically being debated that banning the internet completely is not that an effective step, and other things need to be taken into account. So here we are having the judgments in the Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. Supreme Court failed to adjudicate on even one internet shutdown order. And the decision by itself did not result in restoration of access, but for state or the competent authorities to review all the orders suspending internet services. And the directions of the Supreme Court on transparency, they have also not been implemented as yet. And apart from this, the role of the National Human Rights Commission, that also becomes important. And obviously, because of the internet ban, all other services like e-banking facilities, all of that gets affected. So this is a picture from Delhi. from the situation when the water level entered the city, when the river rose. So life came to a halt in several parts of Delhi as the Yamuna River, which was flowing at an all-time high, inundated many areas of the city. So obviously, here the topic that is important is disaster management. And if floods of this magnitude they keep happening, we will have to move back to our hometowns or find work in another city. So the impact on the migrant population. So you can, basically take out different dimensions from this particular topic. And one of the reasons is definitely encroachments on the floodplains when you talk about spun cities, and then also periodically having the assessment of the sewerage system, the drainage system that is functioning, ensuring that that is not choked. And again, then having a proper plan of action to deal with such instances because we expect the instances to go up further in future. So CBSE says that you can use any Indian language as optional medium. So any Indian language can be used. And schools, they must lay the foundation for multilingual learnings as a higher education sector. It has also already started to respond to the recommendations of the national education policy. So this new policy advocates for utilizing the home language, mother tongue or the local language or regional languages as medium of instruction whenever that's feasible. So Ukraine has started using US cluster munitions on the battlefield, according to White House. So these cluster munitions, they are banned by many countries because of the long-term risk they pose to civilians. Means it is not important that they would be basically, you know, result into an explosion immediately, but it is possible that if they are not exploded, and obviously it somewhere leaves that ground of future explosion, which even after we can say the situation, even after it gets back to the normal, and then these munitions they get blasted. So obviously it is the civilian population who is at loss. So, but right now we see that Ukraine, it has started to use cluster bombs which have been supplied by the United States, and it seeks momentum in its grinding counter-offensive. Coming to Financial Express, so let's see the important topics. So US Secretary of Energy has to say that in order to achieve the goal of net zero, and India's target year is 2070. So herein the use of emerging technologies is paramount. Sharing a common goal of achieving it and being united, they are the ways to achieve it. Because the impacts of climate change is global in nature and it's not region specific. So herein, this is obviously it becomes a common goal, and being united and taking actions dealing with it would be much more impactful. So India aims to trade electricity with Southeast Asia. So here talks are on with several Southeast Asian nations like Singapore and Thailand, and government is also considering trading power with West Asian countries, including UAE. So government has engaged French multinational electric utility company to prepare a detailed regulatory framework addressing the issues like pricing, like how will be deciding the prices, and firms likely to submit the report by year end. So grid linkages to be established both undersea and on land, depending on the cost evaluations. So it's important to obviously have that basic infrastructure before we start trading with electricity to other countries. So we see that Kharif sowing a deficit that disappears and area under paddy rises 2.7%. So this would somewhere positively, help in cooling down the food inflation. And this is the thing that we can take away from this headline. And only the pulses area is below the last year level. So herein, the concern is more related to the prices of pulses. So after a gap of 15 months, we see that Forex reserves, they regain $600 billion level. And this has been the trajectory from 6th of January. So you can see we were at $561 billion, and right now we are at $610 billion. And we can see that we are just in the long term, we can see we are moving upwards. So when we talk about the foreign exchange reserves, so herein we're not just talking about the currency that is there. We're talking about other parts also. So other components includes apart from the foreign currency assets, which you can see has the highest proportion or the share in forex reserves, followed by gold, then SDR and reserve position in the IMF. So these are the other components of Forex. And you can basically also, try to understand what has been the trend of the last 5 years for each respective component. And the all-time high of Forex reserves that we recorded was in October 2021 was at $645 billion. So typically RBI, it intervenes in the market through liquidity management through the selling of dollars to prevent a sharp depreciation of rupee. So whenever we see rupee depreciating, so at that point of time, we see that RBI's intervention becomes important, and it basically tries to ensure that depreciation does not continue, and that is done through selling dollars in the market. Taking up the Indian Express newspaper. So see here, uphill task in Raigad. So at least 109 people they are missing in Maharashtra's Raigad district. So this is we saw landslide which basically swept away the entire village in Maharashtra. So inclement weather and narrow route to the Rishalwari village, it has slowed down the rescue work, according to the officials. So a judge has said or is informed that persons claiming to be the staff of two union ministers called to influence me. So Kurukshetra ASJ warns appellants ministers say that it's not true and there is no such stuff. So it's basically obviously fake call and judge in Kurukshetra's arena said the persons claiming to be staffers of two union ministers tried to influence his court by making repeated phone calls and sending a text message to seek long adjournment of a check bounce case. So herein basically their interests were concerned. So court it orders survey of the Gyanvapi mosque and it is directed the Archaeological Survey of India to find out if it was built over a temple or not. So when we talk about India-Sri Lanka ties, so talking about the ports and UPI to green energy. So basically, both the countries they are trying to deepen their economic ties. So vision document is based on five pillars, which has been unveiled by both the sides. So economic crisis and political chaos in Sri Lanka, it prompted India to step in with help as Beijing looked the other way. And Delhi and Colombo, they have found themselves closer and the economic vision document is a clear expression of the partnership that we share. So talking about this vision document, as we're talking about India-Sri Lanka ties, so it includes maritime connectivity, energy and power connectivity, and then we're also talking about expediting implementation of the understanding reached on the Sampur solar power project and LNG infrastructure, exploring cooperation in green hydrogen and green ammonia. So apart from this, air connectivity, energy and power connectivity, trade, economic and financial connectivity, and people-to-people connectivity, these are the five pillars and maritime connectivity as well. So majorly focusing on strengthening of the connectivity in different dimensions is the focus area. So here you can just go through these two things as well when talk about energy and the power connectivity. So both the countries they have planned to establish high capacity power grid interconnection so that we can basically go ahead with the bilateral or bi-directional electricity trade. So you can find out about that how are the non-convertible debentures that different from the preference shares and how are they different from equity. So then the basis of deciding the return or the interest that is given as return. What is that? How does that varies from non-convertible debentures to equity? So basically, you're talking about the application. So talking about the government's Rozgar Mela resolve for a developed India strengthened by the empowered youth. Herein, obviously, talking about the role of demographic dividend, even that is very important. So 10 lakh appointments has been made, distributions appointment letters to more than 70,000 youths selected in the government jobs. And Government of India is creating lakhs of new jobs in collaboration with the partner state governments. Special benefits are there for women, especially able persons and candidates from aspirational districts. Process remains easy, fair, and transparent. And all the appointments are there through agencies like UPSC, SSC, IBPS, and there's continuous monitoring of the vacancies and the recruitment process through special online system that's there. So House panel, it approves the defense bill and says it must be passed without any change. So the defense gave a go ahead to a bill that seeks to empower the commander in chief and the officer in command of the inter services organizations with all the disciplinary and the administrative powers in respect of personnel serving in or attached to such organizations. NCW chief has to say that she wrote to Manipur officials thrice on women, and so far there's no response from their side. So, National Commission for Women, you need to know about its background, the basic things, whether it is statutory or constitutional body, its composition, and its powers and functions, and how it can be basically made much more powerful and more effective in its essence and its application. So, our morality after Manipur. So, here you can connect with obviously GS for ethics. So, video shakes us to the core, but our reactions, they're about our psychodrama, not about addressing the atrocity. So, merely, obviously, things cannot be restored back to normalcy by reactions. We need to basically address the root cause, the root problem, why it has led to this situation. So Prime Minister may yet give more statements, but don't let his whataboutery disguise the plain facts. So whatever the historical social contradictions in Manipur between the Kokis and Meiteis, we see that horror unfolding at present. It has been exacerbated by present governments at the state and center. So who is actually accountable if government has been so far unsuccessful in restoring peace in the state? So they have legitimized majoritarianism in Manipur and unleashed ethnic fear. सो मिनिमम इनकम गारंटी की जब हम बात करते हैं, सो टॉकिंग अबाउट जो रिसेंटली बिल पास किया गया है बाय राजस्थान. See, the intention is good, but again, this would be impacting the economy's inability to generate quality jobs. So, if we focus more here in terms of generating more quality jobs where people can get more livelihood earning opportunities, so there wouldn't be no need of going ahead with this minimum income thing. And also, this is more of, we can say, revenue expenditure, and this is not what we desire for. We are basically trying to rationalize the revenue expenditure and increase the capital expenditure. So even here, we are basically not on the desired targets. So that's there. And the basically the impact and the benefits of getting a job and working there compared to the minimum income that you'll be getting, obviously that also cannot be compared. So talking about India and France, so they are natural partners in times where we see multipolarity. It has become a reality, and sovereign equality of the nations, they are an important principle. So the relationship is based on shared values that too comes into play. Liberty involves the nations enjoying freedom from being forced to taking sides and choosing what is their national interest. It's called strategic autonomy, and India has steadfastly upheld the principles in its relations with different countries. So this the element of strategic autonomy brings both the countries more closer, because there is this element of autonomy or independence or sovereignty, which we can say, and it is not being forced by the other side to be a part of other groupings where the respective country is a member of it. So there's no such thing. And India's role in the Indo-Pacific as a net peace provider can be reinforced through its bilateral engagement with France. So France had considered itself a NATO power or a European power. It is equally an important power in the Indian Ocean region also. So it has island territories like Reunion in the Mascarene Archipelago and Mayotte in Comoros Archipelago. And then we have this Epirus is in Mozambique channel. So basically, you can now locate these islands. This would become important for more clarity and understanding. Then we also see that concerns and the rising demands of global South countries. So global South is not merely a geographical or economic idea. In the next 5 to 10 years, at least two out of the four big economies of the world, which is Indonesia and India, they will be from the global south. So it's a mixture of political, geopolitical, and the economic parameters common to countries in Asia, Latin America, Africa, and the Pacific. So most countries in global south, they were colonies of the global north, and anti-colonialism and decolonization, they are common denominators for the global south. And then when we talk about the development of Africa, so here also we can basically collaborate, and it called to invite the African Union as a member of G20. So that is also part of the Global South campaign. Coming to the explained page, so we're talking about oil's well with India and Russia. So this is, it has been like very oftenly discussed topic, and this is not something new that we're taking up. We're talking about the crude oil and the share and how did that increase post the Ukraine war. So, in a little more than a year since the war in Ukraine began, deep discounts on the oil offered by Russia have taken it from being a minor player to the biggest source of crude oil for India, and share is somewhere around 40%. So, this is the story of the most significant shift in India's oil trade in recent history, and that has been told in these seven key charts. So, let's try to interpret these charts. So, movement of the crude prices, the discounts that were offered, and the volumes that we traded. So, this one is talking about the oil imports from Russia. So, here you can see the trend of it, you can understand it. And the red one is the amount of crude oil that we imported from Russia. So, you can see like earlier in April 2022, it was at very lower level. And after that, it gradually started to rise up, and you can see it has increased massively. The blue one is for the other countries. Then here how the market shares that have changed. So we see that this red one is for up till financial year 2022, and blue one is from April 2022 till May this year. So this is obviously in the context of India, that how did the share of crude oil imports have changed. So going by the countries, you can see Russia is at number one, followed by Iraq, then Saudi Arabia, UAE, and US. So you can also understand whether the share has increased or decreased from these respective countries. Like in Russia, it is massively increased. Iraq, the share has declined. The share of Saudi Arabia, UAE, US have also declined. So these are the other countries from which we are also importing crude oil. Then OPEC and Russia, how shares that have flipped. So you can see the share of OPEC, it has been falling, which is a good thing, because then we can say that yes, we have been successful somewhere in diversifying our crude oil partners. And that would be obviously from the perspective of geopolitical things. This is an important area. And you can see share of Russia is in red. It has been increasing steeply, and there's no major change as of now in Iraq, US, or talk about UAE, Saudi Arabia. So the share of OPEC has been falling. So this is one of the important things. Then Russia and others, how prices that have moved. So we can see the prices in case of Russia, it's at $70 per barrel, and for ex-Russia average price. Like before that, it used to be at 78. So basically, India has been benefited out of the increase in share of the imports from Russia. And here, fifth one is Russia's discount chart over time. So here we're seeing huge fluctuations, and effective discount on the landed price of the Russian oil to average landed price of the oil from other suppliers. So is what, and then Russia's share versus other share in India's oil import bill. So this we've already seen that has been increasing. And here, lastly, other major suppliers' price differential to the Russian oil. So this is all the charts. And again, these charts have been mentioned here also, that proper details of it, you can go through it, but we just need to take out what has been the trend through these charts. So adjournment motion rule number 267, ways to seek urgent discussion in the parliament. So 1952, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they published their respective rules of procedure, and these rules, they laid down the details of how the two houses, they would be functioning. And they also specified different procedural mechanisms by which MPs, they could participate in functioning of the two legislative chambers. So these rules, they have changed over the last 7 decades, but the basic principles, obviously, that remains unchanged. So when it is business as usual, so to raise the matters in the House, MPs, they must inform presiding officers in advance. And this requirement ensures that the government can collect the information to respond to the MPs. So government also has its agenda of bills and budgets. Apart from this, obviously the bills and budgets that also need to be taken up, and it too is required to give advance information so MPs they can prepare themselves for the debate. And when it is not business as usual, so the apart from the scheduled business that can be set aside by a procedural mechanism which is called the adjournment motion. So this rule in Lok Sabha allows MP to urge the speaker to adjourn the House business to discuss a definite matter of urgent public importance. So in that case, the adjournment motion is passed. Speaker has to decide whether to allow the MP to move the motion or not, and it results in the House dropping its scheduled list of business to discuss this urgent matter. So basically, it is up to the Speaker of the House whether he or she will be permitting or going ahead with the adjournment motion or not. So it's a form of censure of the government, and it originated in the House of Commons in UK and started its journey in India under the rules in the Government of India Act 1919. So a very exceptional thing under it is that after the passage of the Indian Constitution, two changes came about. First was the Council of Ministers became collectively responsible to Lok Sabha, and as a result, in 1952, the adjournment motion found a place in Lok Sabha rule book. So it was left out of the Rajya Sabha. Second was the view of the Lok Sabha speakers on the use of adjournment motions by members. So the first speaker of the Lok Sabha called the adjournment motion a very exceptional thing. So I believe that members they should resort to this procedural device when occasion is such a character which affects the whole country and its safety, its interest, and all that is happening in the house must pay its attention immediately. So in that case, under exceptional circumstances, you can use rule number 267. So Russian strikes and naval drills, they unsettled the Black Sea situation ahead of the UN meet. So Putin says any aggression against the Belarus will be considered as attack on Russia because we see that Wagner Group is based in Belarus. So any aggression against Belarus would be seen as an attack on Russia. So obviously we would then expect things to go much more worse. So what prices, the wheat prices, they go up. Obviously they would go up because when we talk about the Black Sea grain deal, that is Russia has withdrawn from it. So we expected this to happen. So facing the Wagner threat, Poland is going to move the soldiers to east and Germany supports the allies. So again, the geography, the map work is very important. Location of Belarus, Poland, Germany, and Ukraine and Russia. So we need to understand that very nicely. So this we have already taken up green power trade with Southeast Asia. But for that, we need to have the basic infrastructure in terms of the grid connectivity before starting this bilateral trade. So that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining us in this session. I hope the things are clear, the topic that we took up today. And do subscribe to the channel if you haven't and hit the like button for the video.